It's Watford's first ever league visit to Old Trafford. They've enjoyed two fine cup performances here. Luther Blissett on the ball. That one in the League Cup when he scored twice. And that's his shot. And supporters will also remember that Jeff Whelan's on loan, the keeper from Birmingham, that Watford played here in the FA Cup back in 68-69 and forced a draw. As Moses, here's Stapleton. Touched by Barnes, back again to Jacket, and out to David Johnson, tackled by Duxbury. Johnson is a natural outside left. First time he's actually begun a league game, although he has been on as sub. Indeed, one of the occasions was against United at Vicarage Road earlier this season, when United won 1-0. And there's Barnes on the post, and here's Taylor, and they're appealing for offside. Wouldn't have mattered. And onside here for Norman Whiteside. Behind him is Ashley Grimes. Stapleton is in the centre. Wilkins in support here. Rostron with the clearance. That was Robson forward to Moses. Robson again. Quite evident how much Manchester United and England missed Brian Robson when he was injured. Ian Bolton in well. It was McQueen, and now Grimes. Robson looking to his right. Nobody had started a run there, so here's Moses. And now Whiteside. Duxbury's begun a run now. And so had Robson too. Off McGrath. This is Blissett. That's a nice ball into Kenny Jacket. Jobson on this side. And the corner's been given. One or two United players perhaps thinking the ball had already crossed the line. But Steve Sims has made his way forward. Barnes will take the corner. Header away by Gordon McQueen. Barnes trying to turn Brian Robson and earning a free kick for Watford. So Barnes to take again. Jeff Whelan's looking very confident. 31 years old, standing in for Gary Bailey, who has a thigh strain. And feeding Brian Robson. Moses. Oof. Well, Jacket was high. Wilkins. Oh, Moses got caught by Jacket again. Johnson. Past Wilkins, but the whistle's gone. It's a free kick to Manchester United, who are unbeaten at Old Trafford this season. That was Sims up with Whiteside. Now it's McQueen with Barnes. Johnson. Moses. Ashley Grimes beaten by Richard Jobson, and there are 3 Watford players up for him. The pass too far ahead of them. Moses. Looking for Stapleton. He's drawn Sims across, and Grimes is coming in here, and so too now is Arthur Albiston. Stapleton's work across the field, often unnoticed, such an essential part of Manchester United's play this season. Gordon McQueen has gone into his usual position on the goal line. And McGrath is there. That was Albiston. Rostron. Watford playing their normal formation, 2 wide men and 2 through the centre. People have criticised their style, but you've got to say that they've always played with 4 men up, and if that's not attacking football, I'm not quite sure what is these days. They keep 2 men right out wide on the touchlines. The personnel sometimes change. It's Richard Jobson today on the right because of Callahan's absence, and on the left you'll see David Johnson on the far side, joined there now by Blissett. Moses. Stapleton. Moses again. Good ball forward by Sims to Barnes. That was well delivered by Steve Sims, who for a big man has got a very good touch. And he also takes long throws, which means Watford can sustain the impetus here. Jobson up with McQueen. It might come to Rostron to hit one. Deflection was from Moses. Oh, Whiteside flattens Sims there. Nicely turned inside by Stapleton. But the Watford battlers win possession again. That was forward by Jacket. And Moses gets a touch. Whiteside couldn't, so it was back by Sims. And it was Barnes who was caught by Grimes. Just gives us the chance to make the point that these 2 clubs have a very good disciplinary record this season. Ashley Grimes, the only player to be sent off from either of these 2 teams. That was for an incident at West Ham. But other than that, a clean sheet for United and a completely clean sheet for Watford in their first season in Division 1 when they've done so well. Bolton will take the free kick. Blissett up. And away by Wilkins. Oh, that's a good touch from Stapleton and indeed from Wilkins. And United move smoothly as far as Whiteside, and then find that again Watford get a foot in. Stapleton again. That's another interesting looking pass. McGrath. Good effort. McGrath had the shot, but Frank Stapleton's contribution twice in that move once again underlined Ron Atkinson's point that he is the most complete centre-forward in British football. Grimes, Stapleton. Melee in the middle of the field. Here's Grimes. And Moses tries to play the 1-2, but Johnson worked hard to get back behind the ball. Now it's Whiteside. Wilkins. Grimes. Wilkins saw Robson start a run. Sherwood saves the corner, but Stapleton is coming at him. Good clearance by the keeper. He's done well to resist the challenge of Eric Steele and keep his place, Steve Sherwood, this season. Side to Grimes. Wilkins has now made a forward run. This is McGrath. He's a useful player on the ball, the centre-half. Not afraid to get it down and try and play, but on that occasion the pass went astray, and now it's Barnes. And still Barnes. And Barnes yet again. But it was almost too good to be true. He kept getting the ball back. And McGrath getting back to do some useful defensive work, having initially put his side in difficulties with a misplaced pass. Sims. Johnson looking for Blissett, who latches onto those so well and forced McGrath to concede the corner. The number of times Blissett gets in behind defenders is quite extraordinary. Sims, Blissett and Jobson all on the goal line. Sims was up at the near post. Graham Taylor has restored the Sims-Bolton partnership today, having experimented a little there with Terry and Jackett at centre-back. And Sims, a useful competitor in the way that Watford play, because so much of their game depends on corners and throw-ins. That was Whiteside, and Robson was ready to dive onto that. McGrath, Wilkins. And Robson's through now. He's got Whiteside and Stapleton to his left. And he slipped, but here's Wilkins. Stapleton. McQueen shouted for it. And noticeable in the opening quarter of an hour how much possession Watford have had here. Rice. And again. And again it's Barnes. Blissett waiting in the centre. Johnson is joining him there. Good skill by Barnes. Jobson might have even got in his way there. And United are finding themselves pressed back by Watford. Here's Jobson. Off Albiston for the corner. And the Watford tactics, which have unsettled so many opponents this season, very evident in the opening period here. Good length on that kick by Jeff Whelans. And Barnes. Feeling that Brian Robson could be a key figure again in this match, because if anybody's going to get through from behind, it looks like him for United. This is Johnson for Watford, though, getting away from Duxbury. Wilkins has tracked him back and won the ball cleanly. But again, a Watford player gets in the way. Jacket forward to Blissett. And away by Albiston. It was Rostron who initially regained possession, and that's his header to Johnson. So often the play appears to have broken down, and then Watford get the ball back into the danger area so quickly. Sims with the throw. Barnes with the flick, away by Albiston. Barnes again, and Albiston the second time. Two attempts by John Barnes, both thwarted by Arthur Albiston. Corner to Watford. Their fourth. And again, four players almost on the goal line. And Johnson came in at the post, and a corner once more. Well, this is pressure football without a doubt. Watford's trademark. And in the opening 20 minutes here, it's working well. And Sims gets a flick, but the flag's up. The ball was out. Well, those Watford supporters will tell you the first 20 minutes here is a very good example of the way that their team have played this season and taken the game to the opposition. Right side, Stapleton. Sims only as far as Wilkins. Jacket. Here's Barnes. And the score in corner kicks after 20 minutes play is Watford 5, Manchester United 1. And Graham Taylor, hands cupped there on the Watford bench, must be feeling now that his team have stayed the course this season in spite of predictions that they might not. Wilkins, Moses. And Barnes puts Johnson away, and Duxbury caught out of position, and Johnson goes on and is eventually awarded a free kick for a foul by Moses. Brian Robson challenged that with the referee quite forcibly. So indeed does the other England captain of this season, Ray Wilkins. And Remy Moses is going to be booked, and that means almost certainly a suspension which will not affect the FA Cup final, because if that puts Remy Moses to 31 points, as it may well do, depending on an earlier booking at Everton being confirmed, he will start a two-match suspension 2 weeks today. He will get it over by the time the FA Cup final comes round. So in a sense that's a relief, I suppose, but they're contesting it, the booking, the United players. Free kick to Watford. Curled in for Blissett. And a corner is given. Or is it? The referee pointed towards the corner and has checked with the linesman, and it's a goal kick. But the reason for the Remy Moses booking there may have been the referee felt it was his second offence. Certainly not vicious, but he is a player at the moment living very much on a tightrope. Halfway through the first half, Whiteside. If you just look back on that incident, you'll understand why United are so concerned about Moses getting so many cautions. Ian Bolton, who conceded the corner. Which Grimes can curl in with his left foot, and Sims can head out unchallenged as far as Duxbury. Grimes onside, Whiteside. Fumbled at first by Sherwood. From Norman Whiteside, who scored at Watford in December. Manchester United supporters and players feeling they've had the thin end of the decision so far this afternoon. Norman Whiteside was the player penalised there. And there's a slightly restless feeling around Old Trafford, partly I think because Watford have tended to dominate the opening 25 minutes. Gets a special cheer. Barnes. Moses back to Duxbury. And Wilkins gets away from Jacket. Bolton intercepted, but only as far as Duxbury. Whiteside is out on the right wing. Stapleton takes over. Blissett. Oh, good ball. Barnes made the shooting chance. And who says Watford don't play with skill? Luther Blissett turned and ran at the defence, checked when he saw Barnes in a good position. He in turn checked to make the shooting position better and was then too high. Good combination though. On by Stapleton. Jobson trying to turn Orbiston. He succeeded. Orbiston's gone down, apparently injured. This is Taylor into Jacket. It's left the right flank free for Watford with Jobson, but McGrath saw the danger. And his tackle has allowed Orbiston to regain his balance, although he appears to have taken a knock. Blissett coming forward. And Whelan saw there that it was 1 against 1, Whiteside and Bolton. And who knows, it could have put Whiteside through. That was a sensible kick by Gary Bailey's deputy. Forward by Jacket. There goes Barnes against McGrath. He's got the pace. And has Jobson got the finish? Whelans did well. Well, the star of the opening half hour here is undoubtedly Watford's John Barnes. He's gone across to take the corner, but he's giving Manchester United a lot of difficulty. The whistle's gone for a foul on the goalkeeper. Well, Barnes has twisted and turned on the right, in the centre, and found gaps in the Manchester United defence for others to exploit. Indeed, that one, as it was pulled back, came as far as Jobson, but the angle, to be fair to him, wasn't good enough for a shot. Grimes. Stapleton's made a run. And Rostron saw there the possibility of getting to the ball ahead of Duxbury. And everything that's happening here at Old Trafford, whether you prefer it or not as a style of play, is a reflection of how effective Watford can be. Can United turn the game the other way? Stapleton. They might now. Grimes is coming in, and as he did so, he fouled Wolf Rostron. And we have 2 players hurt in that collision. Frank Stapleton making the running on the right, and as he lofted the ball in, Ashley Grimes came in for the header. Wilf Rostron bravely stopped him from getting that on goal, but there was a clash of heads. Ron Atkinson may be checking also on the fitness of Arthur Orbiston, the number 3 in the picture, who was hurt earlier. Either way, Laurie Cunningham is stretching in case he's needed. Ashley Grimes, who played awfully well in that semi-final last week against Arsenal, a candidate actually on the day as man of the match after the first quarter of an hour. And Wilf Rostron has received attention from Billy Hales, and he's fit to continue. Conversation between Nick Brown and Ron Atkinson. I think we're going to see Cunningham now. Rice with the throw. Barnes. It's too long. Wilkins. No score after half an hour. Duxbury for Manchester United. Wanted to get Whiteside through the middle. Bolton cut it out. Albiston with the header, then McQueen. Oh, nice touch by Jobson. And McQueen wasn't sure, and in came Blissett. And Jeff Whelans had to stretch to scramble it past the post. Jobson initially involved. The ball spinning off McQueen to Blissett. Not the best struck shot in the world, but it forced a save from the goalkeeper. Corner to Watford. Oh, well taken. Grimes. This is Whiteside. Brian Robson trying to get into the match, but Kenny Jackett is tracking him very closely. That was his foul. Welsh international. And Manchester United are going to make their substitution. Arthur Albiston was hurt in a challenge with Richard Johnson. He goes off, and Laurie Cunningham, on loan from Real Madrid, makes his first league appearance at Old Trafford for Manchester United. He took a fitness test himself this morning, as a matter of fact, before he was named. Robson turns it in. And Ashley Grimes has gone to play left-back. In place of the departed Albiston. Cunningham has taken up an outside left position. Turned on by Barnes. Now Jackett. Johnson is wide on the left. Rostron in support. That's Rostron. That's Johnson. And Williams chose to punch there. Two touches from Wilkins. And the man in a hurry was Steve Sims. Moses from a lovely flick by Stapleton. Laurie Cunningham trying to get into the action by going infield. Here's Grimes. Cheeky. And some bold play by Brian Robson. Never one to pull out. Look at that. Moses. Manchester United have not had as much of the play here as they enjoyed in the FA Cup semi-final last week. Not up to now, but Brian Robson's thrusts from midfield are something that Taylor and Jackett have got to keep an eye on. McQueen. Whiteside. Oh, he's turned Sims. Right foot, well saved by Sherwood. Out to Stapleton. The turn against Sims by Whiteside. Further evidence of just how far he's come this season. His right foot is not the one he prefers, and Steve Sherwood made a good stop. Low down with his feet. Not a new position for Ashley Grimes. I've seen him slot in at full-back before. Here's Cunningham. Now, is the old pace still there, I wonder? It should be against Pat Rice, with all due respect. Here's Wilkins, Stapleton, Cunningham again. Oh, Mr. Shaw got a touch and he helped Kenny Jackett, who looks for Luther Blissett against Gordon McQueen, who's not the slowest in the world by any means, and would have matched him stride for stride. Just see on this side of the field there, Laurie Cunningham up against Pat Rice. United will be hoping he can get behind the defence there. On by Robson. Stapleton looking for Whiteside. Now he'll find Wilkins. And on the run, Robson. Cunningham coming just behind him. He's still there. The Old Trafford fans will be keen to see what Laurie Cunningham can do. He came on at Everton on Tuesday. Here's Whiteside. Grimes has made a good run. Robson forward for Stapleton. That was the intention. And after Watford's impressive opening, Manchester United have come far more into things in the last 10 minutes. But the corner count is interesting. At the moment, it's Watford 7, United 2. Cunningham. He's away from Rice now. He's got 3 stretched across the field to aim at. Blocked by Les Taylor. Free kick. McGrath and McQueen waiting to come in from the far side, as indeed is Stapleton. Grimes took it, McQueen got up, it was a good header out. Jobson was doing a job there. And it's lofted forward by Les Taylor. Rostron might put Blissett away. And he's got the free kick against Remy Moses for obstruction. Wilkins. Stapleton. Cunningham. Moses coming in. Away by Rostron. Grimes. Robson. Duxbury started a run from right back. Checked by David Johnson. And forcing Robson to drive the ball against Jackett. On by Whiteside, here's Moses. Every time he gets forward, he finds Rostron breathing down his neck. Wilkins, back by Rostron. And there's a slow hand clap breaking out. Taylor shoots. There are 5 minutes left in the first half. Whiteside is penalised for the challenge on Sims. Indeed, he took a knock himself a few minutes ago, Whiteside, which may have slowed him down a bit. And they've already used their sub, remember, Manchester United. Wilkins to Moses. And here's Stapleton up against Sims. Little flick again by Stapleton, so accurate. Nice turn by Whiteside. Watson is the runner. Les Taylor knew all about the position that Watson was likely to find, especially after last week at Villa Park. Whiteside. And Grimes, Cunningham, Robson. Oh, Stapleton appealed for holding by Sims. Referee said no. McQueen's header has only gone to Jackett, and Watford have got 4 players forward, and they're threatening here. Well, they were. That wasn't the best of play by Kenny Jackett, I'm sure he would agree. Had a player wide who was free, and 2 the other way. Wilkins. Oh, he won the battle there, did Wilkins. Whiteside, Stapleton, it won't quite go for Moses. Jackett lofts one forward. Johnson is underneath. A ball which Grimes did well to clear first time. There's Cunningham. That was won by Jackett, and here's Pat Rice, and there are 3 waiting in the centre for the cross, which has gone out. Well, United were undermanned there, you know. Rice, had he pulled that ball back, could have had 1 of 3 targets. And the reason that happened was because a loose ball by Laurie Cunningham was volleyed back by Kenny Jackett before Ray Wilkins got there. So Stapleton gets the free kick, and Manchester United look to make something of what's been, from their point of view, a fairly scrappy first half. Whiteside into Wilkins, and Stapleton went down, but the shout was from the crowd, no appeal from the players. Last minute of the first half. John Barnes for Watford. They haven't all been on target, but Watford have certainly been prepared to try a shot whenever possible. Cunningham doesn't seem to have found his touch just yet, but it may be early days. This is Whiteside into Wilkins, and that's the sort of ball he plays so well. Stapleton, Moses is on the near post now. It's pulled back, and Whiteside got a touch, but Watford had players back again. And Barnes turns so well against McQueen, and turns not just him, but defence into attack in the same movement. Then the flow of play was halted by Wilkins. Some stoppage time at the end of the first half. Barnes. Looking for Blissett, who's got ahead of McGrath for a moment, and found Jobson. The best chance of the half coming in stoppage time. And it fell to Watford and to 19-year-old Richard Jobson. And on the bench, they must feel that should have gone in. Luther Blissett against Paul McGrath. There was only one winner in that movement. And Blissett played a very, very good ball, which Jobson got underneath when it seemed almost easier to score. But it's very simple to say that from up here. And on that note, the first half ends. And one of the interesting features was the two examples of centre-forward play. Frank Stapleton was Manchester United's best attacker, and Watford's John Barnes was always a threat at the other end. Well, all you Sunday morning footballers who saw that miss of Richard Jobson's might bear in mind that only a few months ago he was one of you. He was playing Sunday football in Burton when the season started, and then picked up with Burton Albion, and it was from there that Watford signed him. And despite that miss, there are some good things from him to come, I'm sure. So the second half starts with Grimes again slotting in at left back, and the news of Arthur Albiston, he has a groin strain and joins the United injury list, which already includes Bailey, Muren, Moran, Coppell and Macari. And talking to the United physio Jim McGregor before the match, I get the impression only Coppell is a real doubt for the FA Cup final. So there are still Wembley places to be played for in the Manchester United camp. Not to mention trying to ensure that they would qualify for Europe anyway because of their league position. And that's also what Watford are aiming for. Stapleton. Whiteside. Away by Bolton. Duxbury. Moses. Stapleton with Sims. Top scorer for Manchester United with 16, Frank Stapleton, this season, which compares favourably with his final total of 13 last year. Moses. Whiteside. Pushed by Ian Bolton. Wilkins with the kick. Not a good one, though. Brian Robson with the header. Then on by Les Taylor, and that's put Watford in position here. Barnes is going through, and McGrath, a great recovery. Elbows at the end on him, I think, by Barnes, but nonetheless, as Blissett first got away on the right, McGrath appeared to be out of things, but how well he did to make up the ground and foil John Barnes. Another example, though, of how well Watford attack, first wide and then through the centre. down by Whiteside to Stapleton. The flick back for Whiteside, and Robson. It spun off him a bit, and Sherwood came to make a brave dive. Brian Robson's first touch possibly giving the goalkeeper the better chance there. Oh, Blissett again, and the middle of the Manchester United defence looking at times paper thin against Luther Blissett. Flags up, and the sun is out. Johnson. Well, they've been to all the great stadiums now, Watford in the First Division. And they've held their heads high each time. Here's Barnes. Goal kick. Stapleton to Whiteside. Robson wide to Cunningham, and it'll be important that Manchester United service him if they're going to get any joy at all down that side. Does seem to still be a bit of doubt about Laurie Cunningham's fitness. Whiteside trying to hold his opponent off. Moses. And Robson and Moses, and still ricochets. Whiteside! Corner. Well turned round. Whiteside had the shot. Moses was involved in the build-up. And Wilkins will go across to take the corner. McQueen up with the keeper, and hooked back in by Laurie Cunningham. Well, you have to go back a long way for a league goal by Laurie Cunningham. Over 4 years, in fact, for when he last scored for West Brom in 1979, before leaving for Spain. But Gordon McQueen's presence confused Steve Sherwood, and when the ball dropped, Laurie Cunningham turned it into the net after 51 minutes. So quite a start to his Old Trafford career for the player on loan from Real Madrid. And Manchester United have now got Whiteside in a good position. And also Moses, who's through. And Remy Moses, well stopped. Moses held off the challenge of Les Taylor. And Steve Sherwood came to meet him. Important save that for Sherwood so soon after the goal. Whiteside, though, to a United attack with Stapleton, which now is in full cry. Duxbury. So Laurie Cunningham, having come on as substitute in the first half, opens his account for Manchester United and opens up the match in many ways from their point of view. And Moses is on a run again down the centre. Robson is just picking out the alternative, Cunningham. Robson. And Stapleton slips Sims. There are three waiting in the centre. The cross always favoured the goalkeeper. Barnes trying to find some room. I don't think everybody on the Old Trafford staff was quite convinced about Ron Atkinson's wisdom in bringing Laurie Cunningham over from Spain, but it's an interesting experiment and one that certainly paid off today. They were together, of course, at West Bromwich Albion. Watford now being asked to equalise on a ground where opponents have found goals very hard to come by this season. Manchester United have let in only 9 in the league at Old Trafford. Although Watford might look back on 1 or 2 chances in the first half particularly and feel that they should have been ahead before United struck. Side. Was the score by which Manchester United won at Watford in December, and 1-0 they lead against Graham Taylor's team again today. Moses, Bolton, and Barnes. Blissett. Blissett's got Jobson to his right, but he found Brian Robson in the way. Incidentally, Laurie Cunningham is not cup-tied, so he could be part of Manchester United's 12 at Wembley if Ron Atkinson so chose. Barnes. And Gordon McQueen hurt in that challenge. Jacket. Jobson, Les Taylor committing himself further forward now. That's his cross, and it's awkward. Duxbury away. Header away was by Grimes from Barnes. Here's Rostron. Corner again, and Wolf Rostron collides with the barrier, but he forces Watford's 9th corner of the match. Manchester United, by comparison, have had 3. Jeff Whelans. He's showing a certain amount of composure. It suggests how glad he is to be back in big-time football after an unhappy spell at Birmingham. Whiteside's header, wrong-footing Stapleton. Cunningham's coming in. And here's Stapleton to Cunningham. And Stapleton's to his left. Steve Sherwood has made 2 fine saves. Frank Stapleton put in there by Laurie Cunningham. Struck it with his right foot and Sherwood turned it round into the side netting. Well, a corner led to Manchester United's goal, and it's the same lineup again in the area. Away this time by Bolton as far as Robson. Manchester United are enjoying the best home league crowds for the 11th consecutive season in English football. There are over 43,000 here today. Taylor. Only as far as Cunningham, though. Moses. Duxbury. And Robson. Oh, it's sweeter movement in this second half from United, without a doubt. Robson again. And once more, Moses. Whiteside's under it. But it was always falling away a bit. The header. So an hour gone, and Richard Jobson may well be reflecting on the miss at the end of the first half, which could have turned the game Watford's way had the ball gone in, but instead the game has gone against them now. Stapleton given the best of opportunities by that pass from Whiteside. But the understanding that they've built up has generated so much enthusiasm in the Manchester United camp this season, and rightly so. Cunningham. Well, it took 3 tackles there to dispossess John Barnes. He's having a very good match. Here's Wilkins. And Whiteside on the chest, and if that had been played to either Stapleton or Cunningham, United were away. Instead it's offside against Barnes on the far side. Wouldn't have mattered, but the referee elected to play the advantage. Here's Wilkins. Moses. Stapleton. And Wilkins has made a forward run now, and so too has Stapleton. Beautifully found, and fouled by Sims. Penalty. Penalty to Manchester United. What a great ball by Remy Moses from the middle of the field. Superb pass. Stapleton was through. Sims caught him. Penalty. Now then, there's been lots of debate in the United camp about penalty takers, because Steve Coppell and Arnold Muren aren't playing, and Ashley Grimes, although Stapleton's got the ball, I fancy Ashley Grimes to take it, because that was the decision before last week's semi-final. And he makes it 2-0 with his left foot. So 63 minutes gone, and Manchester United increase their lead. It's interesting, that penalty, because I was chatting to Ashley Grimes before the match, and he was reminding me that when he was last the penalty taker, he missed one in a game we covered against Leeds at that end a few years ago. But although Sherwood guessed right, the power with the left foot there sent the ball in the corner. 2-0 to United then, and Sims with the long throw for Watford. Johnson with a header. Flags up. Offside. Stapleton's endeavour earns its own reward. But what a fine pass that went straight through the centre of the Watford defence. And after all that's happened to him recently, Remy Moses will be awfully pleased about that. Grimes. Grimes jumping into Johnson there. David Johnson on the end of it, and away by Gordon McQueen to Rostron, off McQueen a second time. Jacket. Won it back from Moses. Taylor is square. Jobson, tackled by Grimes. So adaptable, he's fitted in at left back, it would appear, very comfortably. Just may have failed to get to Jobson on that chance before half-time, but these are good days for Ashley Grimes. Influential in the semi-final and a goal scorer today. Whiteside. Cunningham. Goodness me. Wasn't a pass worthy of Real Madrid, but still. It's all about adjustment. Sims. Moses. Whiteside. Oh, good touches by Manchester United. Stapleton, not a good one. And the foul by Moses on Rostron, and he has to be awfully careful. Moses. Chuck it away from Wilkins, and then Duxbury. Oh, rather untidy there, but Wilkins sorts it out to Moses. Well, Sims complained a bit about the penalty, but it looked like contact from here between him and Stapleton. I think he may have felt the ball had already run onto the keeper, but if it's in the penalty area, it's a foul. real turn of Whiteside, very much one of his trademarks. He was checked by Wilf Rostron, who was being spoken to for the challenge. It was a turn that threw Alan Hansen at Wembley. Here's Ray Wilkins. And Manchester United playing now with a certain amount of freedom. They've got 7 players forward, a 2-goal lead, and a lot to look forward to. Whiteside to Cunningham. Oh, that's rather typical of the way he used to play at West Brom. Such good close control. Whiteside. Wilkins, poor pass by Rice. Robson. Sims checking on where Whiteside was. Grimes. Jobson's header. Barnes. And look at Blissett there. He always tries to cash in on the back pass. Not that then, but on many other occasions this season. Taylor for Watford, 2 goals down. Jacket. Rostron. Good ball by Wilkins. The touch by Stapleton, not quite true for Robson. Here's Jacket. Well killed by Ian Bolton. Stapleton gets that layoff right so often, and Moses is having a good match. Into Brian Robson. Cunningham starts a run on the left, but passed through him into another direction. Certainly been an enigmatic player through his career. When he had those chances in the England team, he didn't rise to the occasion. There he is again. Whiteside. And again, and Stapleton almost got in. Ashley Grimes, a very popular figure at Old Trafford, not just with the crowd, but also with the other players. Here's Taylor. And away from Johnson by Duxbury, who's in the England squad again for next Wednesday. And the throw has been given to Manchester United. Stapleton is ready to collect it, and he had room to turn there. Whiteside, Cunningham is to his left. The crowd want to see some magic from Laurie Cunningham. And had that ball rebounded off the body of Steve Sherwood, Frank Stapleton was waiting. Blissett will get the free kick against McGrath. Blissett heads it down for Les Taylor, and it was a good save because I think the view of the goalkeeper Whelans may have been obstructed by either Barnes or McGrath. Jobson. Taylor just inside him. And that long kick of Jeff Whelan's, the prevailing tactic when there are just 2 against 2 up the field. He's used that to good effect. And now Watford will take off David Johnson, and they will replace him with 17-year-old Warrell Sterling, who gets his first taste of league football, but not his first match at Old Trafford, because Sterling played in the FA Youth Cup final here last season. It was a 2-leg final against Manchester United, and Johnson and Barnes were also involved for Watford, and indeed Whiteside played for United. Quite a link up there. That was Whiteside's touch. Here's Robson. If he can get away from Taylor, he couldn't. Blissett against Grimes. And here's Sterling. And Rostron gets a header which might well have fallen on a better day for Blissett. But the youngster who's just come on got his first touch there in the big time, and it was quite effective. He's actually an outside right, Warrell Sterling, and he's taken up that position with Richard Jobson now switching from the right wing to a position that he's occupied before on the left. Bolton. McGrath. Wilkins on the chest. Bolton just about judging the bounce. And we have a quarter of an hour left here at Old Trafford with Manchester United, the established glamour club, leading the new pretenders Watford by 2-0. Both teams reasonably expecting to be in European football next season. And there's a case of the thrower pinching ground, Ashley Grimes, and under the interpretation of the law this season, that's a foul throw, and it's taken by Watford. Away by McGrath. Sims is forward. And that was Sims' flick. Jacket. Header out was by McQueen. And the shot by Bolton hit his own player, Taylor, who gets a header to that. And here's Bolton again. Fox is Stapleton, but doesn't Fox Brian Robson. And Stapleton now, with Whiteside on the left and Cunningham way over here on the right. Can he see him from there? Yes, he's a good enough player to do that. And Cunningham's touch goes slightly behind Duxbury. Cunningham again. Moses, oh, little dummy. Not perhaps read then by Stapleton. Cunningham. Robson, Whiteside could be free on the left. This is Stapleton. The foul by Rostron. Manchester United don't want any more injuries. The treatment room is a very busy place here these days. There's Cunningham, Stapleton, and again Sherwood has to go down hurriedly. So Laurie Cunningham to take the corner. Whiteside, Stapleton and McQueen hovering around the 6-yard area. Robson to come in from deeper. Sherwood touched it. Jackett helped it on a little bit. McGrath's up there, so is McQueen. And here's Taylor. Good turn again by John Barnes. Oh, seemed to get mixed up with Jackett there. Wilkins drives one for Cunningham. With a header inside, meant for Whiteside. And a foul by Johnson on Duxbury. Wilkins. There's a good interception by Kenny Jackett, and he might get John Barnes in behind McGrath here. Blissett's in the centre, and so too is Worrell Sterling. And driven against McQueen for the corner. When you bear in mind how often Watford have got behind the defence and got into crossing positions, they may feel they should have had something out of this match. It's a good header by McGrath. Here's Cunningham. Taking on Ian Bolton. Can he go by him? Didn't have to. Robson. That's too strong for Stapleton. The crowd are applauding another good Manchester United attack. Ten minutes to go here at Old Trafford. It's beginning to look like three fairly comfortable points in the end for Manchester United, providing they don't make any silly slips. And that's one. And it could have been punished. McQueen, surely. Sterling. Well, dear me. Silly slips. It's an understatement. Blessed. And he's turned away from Wilkins and McGrath, and Manchester United got themselves into a right mess. The goalkeeper came and got terribly mixed up with his defenders, and then Gordon McQueen failed to make what looked like an elementary clearance. Worrell Sterling was nearly in for Watford. Les Taylor with the corner then. And the touch on that was by Barnes. Here's Sterling. Faced by two. He worked well to earn the corner. Watford do discover a tremendous amount of good local talent. And as their corner count mounts, Barnes will take. In fact, just looking at that, Watford have now had 12 corners to Manchester United's 5, and yet find themselves 2 goals behind. The amount of corners and throw-ins they get reflects the way they play, but then again, to make them count properly, you've got to score from them. And today, so far, they failed to do so. Whereas, ironically, Manchester United's first goal came from a corner. Whiteside. Steve Sims climbing on Norman Whiteside. So it'll be Grimes to take the free kick. Stapleton, Whiteside, trying to tee it up for Ray Wilkins. And away by Kenny Jackett, looking for John Barnes. That's the long ball, which can sometimes be so effective. But McGrath is playing with some speed and confidence. Found Wilkins. Whiteside, if he touched that on to Cunningham, he could have been through. Taylor. Jobson. That's his jacket. And Ian Bolton. Blocked by McQueen, it fell nicely for Wilkins. And now he finds Cunningham. Not too much ahead of him at the moment. Whiteside is there, Brian Robson's trying to make it. Hence the delay, because there are others coming now from midfield. And in comes Robson, and a touch by Les Taylor. Here's Stapleton. Wilkins wants it pulled back, and Stapleton went for the shot instead. Goodness. Gordon McQueen, to say he misjudged that is perhaps the kindest thing you could say. It's funny there, I wonder if back in September he would have been booked for handball. Bolton takes the kick. Jobson comes in for the header. And McGrath gets the ball away as far as Rostron. Blissett. Jobson. Grimes to head clear. Sims with the throw. Blissett hovering and Barnes going in, but nice interception there. Here's Robson. And Duxbury starts to move into the attack here. This is Cunningham. And Whiteside. Oh, well played. Duxbury. Hesitation by the goalkeeper there. Pat Rice got the ball out. And the player hovering for United was Remy Moses. What a nice little interchange on the right wing there by Whiteside and Duxbury for Manchester United. Wilkins will take the corner. McQueen, and Rostron's on the line, and Cunningham nearly got there again. Corner on the other side. Stapleton, and a goal kick. Good touch by Ray Wilkins. That was Moses to Cunningham. Puts it back in. Oh. Forward by Jacket. Stapleton just controlling it again, shaking off two opponents and putting Cunningham in the clear. And Rostron blocked him. Corner. Couple of minutes of normal time remaining. McGrath. Up and under. Sims and Stapleton. Barnes is on his own through the centre. Sterling out on the right wing. Good experience for him, this. Good ball in, was nice too to Barnes. Here's Taylor. Sterling again. Oh, it's nice to see him show so much confidence on his first appearance in Division 1. Queen waiting for the bounce. Watford managing to get forward to the last. Well encouraged by their supporters, who've had so much pleasure this season. And off McQueen's head at the end, and that looks as though it may well be a penalty against Gordon McQueen, who jumped there with Steve Sims and presumably used the arm in the referee's opinion as he challenged. And a penalty to Watford right at the end of the match, giving Luther Blissett the chance to at least achieve a consolation. Oh, well saved by Jeff Whelans, who caps a fine display as Gary Bailey's deputy. He read which way Blissett was going to send that, got down to his left and pounced. And that was the last action of an eventful afternoon, when Watford may well reflect on missed chances like that one. But Manchester United's experience was telling after a first half in which Watford had taken the game to them. 2 second-half goals, the first by Laurie Cunningham, and the second from the penalty spot by Ashley Grimes. And those two players switched roles when Orbiston went off. Grimes went to left-back, Cunningham came on as sub, they were the scorers, and Manchester United take 3 points.